Draw the hands up. And then down to the heart as you fold, maybe reaching for the lap. Lengthening the spine and the legs. Stay in a half fold or reach towards the floor. Inhale, reach up halfway. Lower the hips, find chair pose. Step the opposite foot back. And find warrior one. We might be repeating a side. I forget now. That's kind of the fun part about flowing. So hope you enjoy making this yours. As you're ready, step forward. We'll do the same thing again on the other side. So I think that will even us out. We'll just step the other foot back and reach up. And step again to chair pose. This time we'll dive forward, finding a fold, lengthening the backs of the legs. Plant the hands lower to the knees. Choose your cat-cow pose or bird dog. Or step the handprints forward, keeping elbows in close as you lower from a low plank all the way to your belly. Inhale here to lift your sternum for baby cobra pose. And exhale to lower. Choose to send your hips towards your heels for child's pose. And we'll all meet in tabletop, hands and knees, remembering the support under your handprints as needed. Option to stand up however you'd like, maybe tucking your toes here and hovering the knees. Reach your heels towards the floor as your hips lift towards the sky. An inhale might lift the heels. An exhale might lower the heels. Walk handprints towards footprints and fold. And inhale, press into both feet, root to rise, roll up to your mountain pose. Nice work. From here, you might choose to move anything out of your way, preparing for standing balance and eagle pose. Also, it could be nice to step off of your mat onto a harder surface like tile, wood, concrete, or even just the ground outside. Depending on your mat, any squishiness underneath could add a little bit of challenge. So decide what you're here to practice today. And to find your eagle pose today, I invite you to take a seat in a chair if you choose, or find your chair pose. You can heel toe your feet apart for extra stability as you begin to experiment with shifting your weight from one foot to the other, maybe lifting your foot off the mat, marching from side to side. Option to add on by lifting your foot so much that you cross the knee over the standing leg. So you'll notice it helps to stay low in your chair pose as you practice this. Just shifting from one foot to the other, crossing the knee over the other. And you'll notice as you cross your knee, your foot can reach towards the floor and make kind of a little kickstand down there with your toes. And maybe that's a nice grounding point as you choose to incorporate your arms. You remember the open and close, wide and center from the beginning. Option to work again towards touching one elbow and the other. Maybe the backs of the hands work towards connection or continue wrapping, catching fingertips in palm. Can you tuck your tail and lengthen your spine here? Come out and back in as many times as you need. Remembering this pose is associated with courage. I like this metaphor that courage doesn't feel very balanced. It feels kind of strange. It feels kind of wrapped up and mangled, and we get to choose how far to extend ourselves to make it sustainable, right? So you might notice if you work towards wrapping that foot behind the ankle, it gets a little harder to hold your footing. Maybe you learn from that and choose not to wrap as far on the other side. Notice too how it feels to change the feet and then the arms, or to change everything at one time. These are all options for your eagle pose today. I'll meet you in mountain pose to take 3 long breaths. Nice work. If you're ready to bring it down a notch, we will first practice a wide-legged standing fold. If you're ready to make your way to the mat, I'll meet you there shortly for a wide-legged seated fold. So again, make this yours. If joining me for standing, I invite you to make your railroad tracks that you're standing upon extra wide. Bring your footprints way out far to east and west. It might be nice to turn towards one long edge of your mat so that you have some grip underneath you if you're practicing on a grippy mat today. From here, you might even heel toe your toes in and your heels out. It might feel kind of pigeon-toed. That's okay. I also recommend placing yourself in front of a wall if that's accessible. It can be nice to just have that sense of support, that sense of comfort, that you won't fall backwards as you hinge forward. Last but not least, if you have those blocks along for your ride today, option to bring them in front of you as a landing place for your hands. You can use them like stilts to support your upper body's weight. Stack of books will work just great. All right, bring your hands to your hips as you're ready to fold. Take a nice deep breath in, fill your belly up. And your chest too, continue expanding. And as you exhale, reach back in space with your tail. Lengthen the backs of both legs as you imagine tearing your mat in half. Imagine tearing the ground in two between both feet. And you might choose to pause at about a half fold like we did standing in staff pose. And reach your hands towards whatever support you may choose, whether you have blocks or books or are flexible enough, long enough, positioned such that the floor is within reach. So if you've started on the top setting of your blocks, as I recommend, if you have them, take a few breaths here. And then maybe choose to explore lowering the height of your blocks one setting at a time. Or if you have books, take off a book, and then take off another book. Lower your stack one book at a time. Allowing the bones to feel supported so the muscles can relax. You might bring your awareness to the backs of your legs, your hamstrings, the connective tissue behind your pelvis, connecting your spine to your pelvis and your pelvis to your femur bones in both legs. Allowing us to move around and be upright all day. Imagine sand softly filling the space behind your face. Imagine your face becoming heavy. You may or may not fold as far as I do or more. As you fold here, maybe you don't need the hand support anymore. Maybe your elbows bend. You have the option to bring your handprints to the floor and walk them back in space as though on railroad tracks that are more narrow than those your feet are standing on. And it might be nice to heel toe your feet together a little bit and maybe bend your knees, starting to squat a little bit. This is going to feel kind of funny if you're practicing an arm balance with me today. Might be a little bit like a frog. You walk your handprints back behind your heels and walk your feet in front of your fingertips so your elbows will bend straight behind you. so much so that you can set your hamstrings on the backs of your arms. And maybe as you take a seat there, you choose to heel-toe your feet towards each other and work with some strength towards connecting your toe prints. That's where that wall can be nice behind you for support as you make your way into or out of that pose with or without any grace. Thanks for coming along as I gave that a try to demonstrate for you. I'll meet you on the floor as you're ready to practice that wide fold again. And once again, it might be nice to bring props along for support, setting up kind of a nest for yourself. And if you have those blocks or books handy, place them in front again, just like we did while standing. There'll be a nice landing place, whether it's for the body or the forearms and elbows. And make space between your feet as you choose to flex your toes towards the sky, maybe lengthen both legs and kind of roll onto the front of your hips a bit. You can move any flesh out of the way behind you so that your hip points can connect to the earth. And if you have a blanket or towel, it could be nice to sort of make a little roll, just sort of a skinny roll right in the hip crease of both of your legs, just for kind of feedback and comfort as you begin to explore leading with your heart, reaching forward and forward, maybe bringing elbows to that place for support. Also, it's very soothing to the nervous system to have gentle pressure applied to the organs, the front of the body, kind of like we did while we were laying on our belly earlier. And so while you're exploring maybe an intense stretch here with your wide-legged fold, another option could be, if you have blocks accessible, to place your block on a height in front of you that allows a little bit of pressure to your belly as you lean forward. So for me, that's a medium height. That might be different for you. Different bodies, different shapes. And then I also like to use the second block for kind of a head pillow, a little forehead pedestal. And maybe the elbows come to the floor as you offer yourself support for 3 or 5 more breaths. And as you're ready to come out, walk your handprints one at a time towards your seat to lift your upper body away from the floor. Notice upright. Choose to move anything out of your way as you prepare for what might come next. We'll offer pigeon pose. We have a couple of options. You might lift your knees as you bring your feet towards each other. Lift your hips away from the floor and make your way into staff pose first, seated with your heels long extended on the mat. If your knees are not quite ready to be fully extended, you can roll up your towel or blanket and make a roll behind them, or even bring it a little closer underneath the hamstrings. Again, you can move flesh out from underneath those hip points and see if that aids your spine in sitting tall. And from here, take a long breath in, reach for your toes, and ragdoll forward wherever your spine wants to curl in. So maybe you bring your handprints to the mat. And softly, slowly, just allow your body to become heavy over your lap. Allow your face to be heavy, tucking your chin, lengthening your neck. Can you notice the feedback of your belly on your lap?